Alright, this is for anybody who's tried to make a fire without matches. I'm going to use a couple of things. I'm going to go over some details that nobody went over with me. It took me 2 weeks to figure out how to do this. Number one, you need your bow with just a boot string, whatever. If you got shoes on, with a shoestring you can make a fire in the woods. It is possible. It took me 2 weeks though, so don't give up. This is palm, cabbage palm. I whittled it down. I basically took cabbage palm sticks, you know. If you're from Florida, you'll know what I'm talking about. And I whittled, I don't know if you can see how the center, how it's bumped up right there. So you can make a spindle out of that bumped up center part. Whittle it down. And then you make your fire block out of the bottom piece, you know. I squared it off with a knife. Basically all you need is a knife and some palm, sable palm I guess is what they're called. And then I used this is actually plastic wood, it's fake wood. But I tried the palm first and it wouldn't work. It's putting too much friction on the spindle. Now, let me just explain some things about the spindle real quick. Notice the spindle has one pointed end and one blunt end. The blunt end is what starts the fire. The pointed end is what goes on your pressure block on the top. This is to create a bow drill. Now, I was using the palm before and it was putting too much friction on the top, so the top was smoking as I pressed down. And when I used this plastic, it finally worked. So I would say use any kind of hardwood, oak, anything like that, and it'll work. Now, the basic object is to twist it around so that it's twisted around the spindle, like so. And then you put it into here while it's twisted around it with the block on top, pushing down with force, and you slide back and forth and it spins the spindle onto your piece of wood. Now, with your fire block, it's imperative that you make a notch and then spin it a few times so that it burns in. That's what they call it, burning in. And then you want your notch on the side of it. You got to make a notch on the side of it so that your fine dust that collects in there, that creates the ember which you can blow into flame, you got to make sure that the notch is there so that the dust has somewhere to go. Otherwise it just goes around the top and cools off and goes out. Now your notch can't be skinny either. It's got to be thick enough for you to put your pinky in. All these things are really important, I found out. So top of the spindle needs to be pointed so that all the friction is down here at the blunt end. Your fire block has to have a notch in it big enough to put your pinky in, on top of the little hole to put your, you carve all this with a pocket knife and then just burn it in. Also, if you're right-handed, you want to use your left foot to hold the fire block down, and then you want to put your pressure block with your left hand on top of the spindle up against your leg for support. So when you're sawing, your hand can stay up against your leg. It's another thing that I had to rough through badly. But and then last but not least, I'm going to use a piece of paper, but you can use a leaf, you know, carrot wood leaf, anything, to put underneath here to catch your ember. Okay, it's going to be easier for you to see it on a piece of paper. That's why I'm using it. Here's the one that I did a minute ago. You can see the burn spot. Okay, so let me see. Yeah, make sure you can see it. Yeah, you can see that. So here's the burn spot. So I'm going to test this again. I did it inside earlier. I didn't think it was going to work. I've tried it 1,000 times. No success at all. Tried it earlier and it worked. So once I get it going, I'm going to put the ember into my tinder bundle, which is also made from the cabbage palm tree. Everything I'm using is from the cabbage palm tree except for this and the bow. The bow is a carrot wood, piece of wood. That's, you can make anything, you know, just make a bow that you can, that's a little flexible, and you can use any kind of wood for that. This is I can't remember. I think they call this gorilla hair, the Native Americans did. This red fiber, and it's very flammable. You can blow it into flame once you have an ash in it pretty easily. So that's going to be what I put my ember into when I start the fire. So let's do this. Get you a little closer so you can see me. Okay. I'm doing this up on a table just to show you so you can see all the supplies and everything. Okay. So, take your spindle, pointy end up, blunt end down. Very important. You want to put a little notch in that too so it doesn't come flying out. Your pressure block or whatever you want to call it. Put your left foot on the fire block. Quite strenuous. Well, I had it going, but I'll show you what happened. My block broke. It's kind of the problem with using palm. That's okay, I'll be right back though. Okay, and we're back. I had to go get my knife. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to carve another spot, right next to where that one was, because I've also found that it's kind of hard to decide which kind of wood you're going to use. I mean, you're using the palm, but which piece of the palm, an old dead piece, a new young piece. It's been really hard. It's a lot of trial and error. If you want it bad enough, you'll get it. But don't think that you can just go out in the woods and make a fire with 2 sticks, because I got news for you. You're not going to do it. It's going to take you a bunch of tries. Some people might get luckier than I did. I don't know. It took me about 5 actual days, and I get frustrated a couple of times, so I stopped for a week, in between. And I actually didn't try it yesterday or the day before, but for 3 days before that, I went at it like crazy and couldn't get it. Then today I had work off, so I decided, what the hey, I'll try it. And it worked for me. I did it inside though, so I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not either, honestly. But anyway, I'm going to pause this for a second so you're not getting bored. Okay, I should show you this. Once you get a little notch burned into what you're doing, you'd carve it in with with a knife, a little dent. Then you want to take your spindle and your bow drill, and your pressure block, and you want to do what's called burning it in. And that's just basically reassuring exactly where you're going to have this thing. Once you see some smoke like that, you know you're doing it right. So that's where that's going to go. Now I know that that's the exact circumference of the stick. Now I'm going to carve a notch big enough for the tip of my pinky to fit in. Okay? Okay. Here's what I ended up with. Make sure you can see that. Yeah. So right here is where your notch goes. Goes. And then right here is your notch. This notch is going to gather your ash. Alright, I had to go get something to wipe my face with. Freaking sweating bad. It's like 110 degrees out in Florida today. I'm here in North Fort Myers. It's hot as a bitch. Alright. Now we're going to try this again. Hopefully the wind stays cool, because I don't know exactly. Make sure I'm recording. Yeah. Okay. I don't know exactly what I did differently in there, I did a couple of different things, and I know that the AC cool dry house might have had something to do with it. I don't know. It's really fragile at this stage. Too much wind will put it out. See it smoking? Make sure you can see that. Here, I'll move it a little closer. Okay, now using this paper, just like you would use a leaf, see it smoking? I'm going to take it and drop it into my tinder bundle, like so, and then blow this into a flame. You can see this. There. Sorry, the smoke is probably messing the whole thing up. Surprised it's not blazing up yet. There we go, we have fire. We have fire, ladies and gentlemen. Now, in order to keep it going, I'm going to get a couple of things here. Hope they didn't wait too long. This is why you should always have your tinder bundle ready and have your fire built ahead of time. But anyway, you saw me make fire from nothing but a stick. There you have it. No matches, no nothing. Here's this. You got a bow, you got your pressure block, you got your spindle, and you got your fire block. And then a leaf, or as I used, a piece of paper. And then you just got to blow it to life. And then you should have a pre-fire built. You should have a fire already built. I didn't do that, but there you have it. Comment if you got any questions.